What would you say is perennial foodscaping? How do you describe it?
Hmm. I would describe it as the profession of designing, installing, and maintaining edible landscapes for clients for a living.
And is this kind of a new career that didn't exist a few years ago?
It certainly, from where I'm sitting, seemed to be virtually non-existent 10 years ago, and it has been slowly growing for the last decade, to the point where now, most major cities have at least one foodscaping company, but some cities have many.
So, where do you think the interest comes from? Who is it that's drawn to putting in these landscapes?
I think it's everybody who's interested in connecting with food and connecting with the great outdoors. And more specifically, people who are interested in their children connecting with those things. I feel like my generation feels like they missed the boat on that. And they're like, oh, I actually didn't have this super grounded, connected to nature childhood. And right now, the trend is so technological based and screen based. And I think parents are really motivated to create an alternative narrative for their children and give them an incentive to be outside. And I think gardening and all the associated gardening tasks are a really idyllic way for the family to get outside and spend time together that doesn't feel like they have to pack up the car and go on a hike at some place that's not, right outside their door.
Are there other projects that are larger scale or for different types of clients?
A lot of times we do work in front yards too. So it's not just backyards. And we really love the front yard work because it's so much more of a conversation piece and a real disruptor to the HOA ethic that is so, deleterious to our ethos of trying to change the planet here, right?
Well, first of all, I have to ask, what is an HOA ethic? Oh my gosh.
They're the neighborhood associations that govern what you can do with your yard. And so many neighborhoods in the US have an HOA that says you can't have a garden, you can't have a fence, you can't get rid of your grass, you can't plant flowers, and all of these things that infringe on our ability to just provide for ourselves and provide beauty.
I didn't realize that there are some communities where they dictate that you have to keep your grass.
Oh yeah, it's so common. All kinds of municipalities are citing people who have front yard gardens and foodscapes. Seems to be a constant thing in my social media feed is the fight against this.
So we were talking about other types of foodscaping projects. I
Yeah.
know that you mentioned one that fascinated me, working for like doing a restaurant's
Mm.
foodscape. Tell me about that.
We've worked with several restaurants at this point, and they're really the ideal client because obviously they're serving food every day and they want unique, fresh ingredients that oftentimes they can't get from the supply chain. Even a lot of times, local farms can't produce some of the really interesting edible flowers or just really fresh herbs or funky fruits that are really not storable and packageable. For example, we love the Girardi dwarf mulberry, which is one of the plants we have at that. It's a mulberry that stays under 8 feet tall, and it's really a nice looking shrub. So, if you are a restaurant that wants mulberries on the menu, how are you going to source them? It's really hard because they're so perishable. So we focus a lot of our restaurant plantings on funky and interesting things that you can't get otherwise.
So back to the idea of foodscaping. Now you've got this summit coming up, and one of your passions is training other foodscapers. So how did that come about?
As we got into this, Susan, we found that there were companies who are over 10 years old doing this, and we were able to network with them. And people in foodscaping are so willing to just share and be authentic, and they want to connect with other people doing this work. And there was a huge hunger for all of us foodscapers to come together and support each other, just like every profession needs that. And This one needs it especially because everybody's on an island. You know, you're the only company likely in your city. So you have nobody locally to network with. So that's where the internet is so powerful. And we had an awesome response last year. So that was just so encouraging that people are hungry for this information.